Yeah. Yeah, no, I said, yeah, I don't, I don't know if that's a good thing for him or not in this day and age, but
Well, it might be more money for him. I don't know.
oh, that well, uh, yeah, it's at least, he would at least get 3% or whatever the bottom of the range was.
Mm.
That's how it works in the province.
Uh,
Like it's 3% promotional or whatever the bottom of the range is. So
oh, I
if
see.
it's more than 3%, you get the bottom of the range.
Right, right. Sort of in the
But if
middle.
it's
Mm-hmm.
within, yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
he was, the levels weren't that different,
Mm.
like between he and I.
Oh, I see.
And I think he had a, I think they had he had a level raise after I left. So
Ah,
it's good, yeah. But he has to look after, he's looking after all the boards now, so.
yeah, I know. That's a lot of work, I'm sure.
Well, it's also getting to know the other ones that you might not have known before, but most of them he would know, and he'll do fine. I'm sure he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to do it remotely though,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But yeah, no, I wrote him an email to congratulate him when I heard, so it's good. I'm glad you guys are still in touch. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I have to send something to the OLT, so I thought, who's the deputy or the registrar now? Just in case, there was a change. We don't send much to the OLT anymore,
No.
so, oh, it's Yukon. Okay.
Yeah, it's nice when it's a name that you at least know who it is,
That's
eh?
right.
Not many of us old guard around anymore, so yeah.
No, no.
I was talking to somebody the other day from there, and I'm not sure, and I've been gone. It'll be 6 years in May, actually.
Wow.
And I don't know if I would know very many of the board members anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Time goes on.
Yep. Okay, so we're at 2 o'clock.
I'm ready. If you guys are ready, Dawn's gonna do the.
I got to do the opening remarks. Are we ready, Sylvia?
Are we good?
YouTube is good to go.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Donald Granitstein. I will be giving the open remarks, and Miss Joanne Hayes will be chairing this afternoon's session. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting earlier, either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustments of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustments considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with our decision, it may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today, Ms. Hayes will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. Ms. Hayes will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please state your name and address and confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will present the application to the committee first. Please note the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. If the application is substantially revised, the committee may decide to defer it to ensure the revised application is accurate, and all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals in support of or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all other speakers have finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut issues raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in this afternoon time slot? Are there any, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Not in this time slot. There is one at 3:30, however.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to start the afternoon session with item number 21, 43 LEUTY Avenue. The committee has before
Through you, Madam Chair, sorry.
Yes.
We're just having issues reaching the applicant for this one. If possible, we can
Okay.
move on to the next one until I get them on the line.
Certainly, thank you. So we're going to move on to item number 22, which is 2 BEAUFORT Road. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received January 20th. Shadow study from Ryan Dunlop, applicant, received January 25th. Email correspondence from the assistant planner at Community Planning, City of Toronto, received January 17th and January 20th. Staff report from the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry, received January 19th. 7 form letters in support, signed by owners or occupants of 4 and 5 BEAUFORT Road and 26, 28, 32, 34, and 36 Southwood Drive. And letters, correspondence in opposition from 39 Southwood Drive and 17 Southwood Drive. Moderator, do we have the applicant or their agent online?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have the applicant along with one other speaker in opposition.
Thank you very much. Agent or applicant, could you please identify yourself by stating your name and your address, please?
Yep, it's Ryan Dunlop, 600 Fleet Street in Toronto, and I'm the architect for the project.
Thank you. So you have 5 minutes to make your presentation. Please proceed.
Perfect. If possible, I'm not sure if it's able to pull up the site plan or not, but I can kind of walk you through what we're looking to do. So essentially this, the site of this project is located at the northeast corner of Beaufort Road and Southwood Drive in a very beautiful neighborhood in the Beaches area. So essentially what we're looking to do is to add a small two-story addition at the front of the home on the south side of the house and extend that second floor over top of the existing one-story sunroom that is at the southeast corner of the house. So this would extend the main floor living space enough to allow for a new kitchen and dining room on the main floor. And a second floor would allow for an expansion of a bedroom and an ensuite. So with this, we're really looking to maintain the existing heritage of the home. This was one of the, very important things that the homeowner, wanted to maintain, and one of the reasons that they purchased the home a number of years ago. So one of the things that we're looking to do is we intend on reclaiming some of the brick that's along the existing south facade and reusing it on the new addition so that we maintain the exact same look and feel as what's currently there. So with this portion of the project, we have two minor variances that we're looking at and are associated with this, and one of them being a front yard setback. And given that it's a corner lot, and the lot is about 6.9 meters wide at the rear and flaring out to the front at about 9.9 just before the site kind of begins to curve. So it makes this variance a challenge to meet. As you can kind of see there. The second variance that we're looking for is the increase to the FSI, which, given the size of the lot, we feel the house is comparable in size to other homes in the immediate area. And then when we move to the rear yard at the north end of the property, the homeowners wanted to reclaim some area just north of the existing garage and incorporate that soft landscaping into their backyard for their enjoyment. With our proposal, we would be rebuilding the garage at the north end of the property so that a car of today's standards would fit, and this is based on a typical Toronto parking space size. So we've tried to maintain and keep the garage as tight and compact as possible so that we're able to maximize the soft landscaping. Some other design considerations that we've incorporated into this as well was updating the driveway and walkway to a permeable paver, and by also planting a new red maple in the backyard to help with the stormwater runoff. The final two variances that we're seeking are in relation to the garage itself. One of them is the minimum side yard setback for a corner site, which in this case is set at 6 meters. And in our site here, as I mentioned, we're 6.9 meters deep at that rear lot line. So this would give us a side yard setback currently of 0.53 meters. The final variance that we're looking for is in relation to the rear yard soft landscaping, which has a requirement of 50%. And so we are seeking to maximize what we currently have to 37%. So I think in conclusion, I think given the feedback and the work that we've done to facilitate a design that works for both, the neighbors and the neighborhood, with keeping the design language of the existing house and how it ties into the fabric of the neighborhood, we feel that the variances that we're requesting here are minor in nature, and we look forward to your approval. Thanks.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions at this time? Mr. Granstein?
Yes, variance number 3, where you're asking for the rear detached garage to be located 0.53 meters from the west side lot line. Is that an existing condition?
The existing condition is not quite 0.53. I think it's slightly more than that. But the existing garage itself is a little bit smaller than what we're currently showing. Just it's just kind of the nature of the beast.
But in order to get a regular sized car in there,
Correct.
you need to expand the garage a little. But when you say it's a little closer to the lot line, could you give us a guesstimate as to how much closer?
Yeah, I think the survey that was just up on the screen there, I think I had it close to being about a meter, give or take, I think, from the property line there.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Moderator, could we have the next speaker, please?
The next speaker is Sabrina Sills. Sabrina, you are
afternoon, Ms.
unmuted.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sills. Could we have your name and address just for the record, please?
Hi, Sabrina. You can refrain from muting and unmuting yourself. I see you doing that. I'll unmute you on our end. You're able to speak now. If you're unable to speak, you can try to increase your microphone volume or speak directly into the microphone or replug in your microphone. Through you, Madam Chair, I can try giving Sabrina a call, Ms. Sills a call.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, Ms. Sills. Could you just state your name and address for the record, please? And then
My
you'll have
name
5
is-
minutes to start.
Thank you. My name is Sabrina Sills and my address is 39 Southwood Drive.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Am I able to present my presentation?
Was it pre-filed?
Yes,
Yes, then the staff will bring it up. Just a minute.
thank you. Okay. I've been the owner and occupant at 39 Southwood Drive for more than 23 years, and I'm objecting to a couple of the variances requested by Jane and Jim. The first 2 variances are regarding the front of their house. They want to add an addition. It improves their life. They get more daylight, they get more views, more sun. I support that variance request. I object to the variance request that affects my property. They want to destroy their current garage and build a new garage, a larger garage, closer to my property. I believe that doing that would make my property feel hemmed in, would decrease the amount of light that would come to my yard, and overall detract from my day-to-day living enjoyment of my property. Next slide, please. I'm not an architect or a planner by trade. I've looked at the documents online with the city, and so I believe that if I'm interpreting the test correctly, that the variance request fails on the 4 tests. The first test is whether or not the variance is minor. I don't think it is. The setback requirement is 6 meters. The request for the variance is a setback of 0.53 meters. I've done a lot of work on my front yard over the last year. You can see a little blue bin there. I filled 3 of those. I did re-landscaping of my front yard all by myself, by hand. I put a tremendous amount of effort in so I could enjoy my front yard. And I feel that by moving a large garage closer to my property, it's going to detract from the sunlight that's going to fall on my property, and it's going to be imposing. Next slide, please. I don't feel that the change is appropriate. It's disproportionate in size to the scale of my house. My house is 23 or 22 feet wide. Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing the little font there. And the garage is 12 feet wide. Furthermore, they want to build the garage adjacent to the property, and the back of the garage would start right at the corner of my house. So I would see a full 20 feet of length of garage that's 8 feet tall. When I'm sitting on my porch or looking out my front window, I feel it's very intrusive and a very imposing structure. And it will affect the views from my property. Next slide, please. I don't believe that the variance request is respecting the general intent of the zoning bylaw. I think the bylaw is intended to give people view from their property, from their front yards, and not feel hemmed in. I have a hard time visualizing from plans, so I built a screen that's 20 feet long and 8 feet high so that I could experience what the view would be like when I'm sitting on my front porch or looking out my front window. And this is a little inaccurate because it doesn't account for 8 inches of a slab that the garage would be sitting on, and it doesn't reflect the fact that the peak of the roof is up to 12 feet. So I feel, again, it's very imposing, very intrusive, and if I just draw sight lines based on the drawings, you can see that the sight line that I currently have is going to get reduced. Next slide, please. I don't think the variance meets the general intent of the official plan. This is a map of Southwood Drive. If you stand at the bottom or the top of Southwood on the straight part of it and you look up and down, there are no structures protruding from the front alignment of people's houses. And that's on the straightaway. If you compare like properties, corner properties, there are 4 within easy walking distance of our properties, and each one of them has a setback that's quite setback from the road. None of them are only 0.53 from the property. So I think that the intent is pretty clear, that they want to have kind of openness on the street for people to enjoy, and putting a structure that's so large right beside my property doesn't respect that. Next slide, please. When I looked at the documents and saw the reason for the variance given by my neighbors, it's that the fact that they have
That's
a
your
corner.
5 minutes, so if you could wrap up, please.
Sure. I feel that everything that they are gaining is at my expense, and I don't think that that's fair.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Seeing none. I don't believe there's any other speakers, so we'll go back to the applicant's agent for rebuttal, please.
Yes. So I guess prior to the hearing, we had reached out to a number of the neighbors to get feedback and let them know what we were proposing. And we had really great feedback and had the majority of the neighbors' support. So we did have the one neighbor that, Sabrina, that we had reached out to as well. And even leading up to today, we had attempted to work with her to kind of hammer out a solution on the location of the garage. And unfortunately, we weren't able to have any luck kind of leading up to today's hearing. I think the main issues, that comes down to is basically the field of vision and the shadow impact of the yard immediately north of the garage. I'll reiterate that we purposely designed the garage to be as compact as possible while still maintaining and allowing proper sizes and clearances for a car, doors, that sort of stuff, so that we could minimize the shadow impact and on the adjacent site as well. I did prepare a sun study. I'm not sure if you're able to pull that up, but we had submitted that as well, which illustrates the shadow impact on the neighboring property at both March 21st and June 21st as well during the spring and summer solstices. And there we go. Perfect. So this illustration here, we created 2 views to just kind of illustrate the impact during the spring solstice of the impact of the shading on the adjacent property. So in this case here, the sun's obviously lower in the sky, so it's going to cast slightly more of a shadow onto the neighboring property. And from my calculations, it would probably creep in about 5 feet onto the neighboring property, and that's up to about noon. Prior to noon, the sun comes up from the east, so it would come up from behind the house and kind of come across over top of the garage. So shortly after lunchtime, the front yard would mostly be in sun, full sun, other than obviously the couple trees that are there now. So for this purpose, we tried to keep the garage height as low as possible. And if you can go to the next slide, you believe it's June, which illustrates obviously the sun's higher in the sky and will cast a much less shadow on the neighboring property. Not sure if you're able to go to the next slide or not. Perfect. Yeah, so you can kind of see here a couple different views, and obviously the elevation change between the neighboring property and my client's property as well. So there's a little bit of a grade difference there of about a foot. So the overall shadow impact doesn't affect the house itself. It's mainly just kind of the front yard a little bit. And as I said, till probably just shortly after noon. You know, so we understand and sympathize, and we've done our best to reduce this impact. You know, I think I'd also like to note that, you know, based on the current zoning, the allowable height for a fence in this case would be about 2 meters, which, you know, if we were to compare this to what we're proposing, the fence would cast much more of a shadow and actually be longer than what the garage is, kind of much like what the photo that she had of the mock-up that she had done as well. So, you know, a fence would be much more intrusive in that case. So in closing, you know, we feel that we've made the effort to reduce the impact on the neighboring property, and you know, we feel the variances that we're requesting are minor in nature, and look forward to your decision.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker panel members? Okay, having heard none. Okay, we'll go into committee then. Discussion or motion? Peter or Mr. Reed? Sorry.
Sure, thanks. Peter's fine. I'll start and see if Don wants to hop in, but I understand the neighbor's concerns, and I want to commend her on the materials she put together. I think it was a very instructive package. But having said that, I do think that what is being proposed by the applicant is fair. I think they have made efforts to lessen the impact of the garage as much as they could, and I think that yes, the field of vision is compromised slightly, but I don't think it's done in such a way that is too impactful. I think it's a relatively minor increase over what's there now. So I'll put forward a motion for approval of the application subject to urban forestry condition 1 and 2, and subject to the planning condition that a tree be planted in the backyard.
I agree with Peter. I think that the neighbor is, I don't know that she's exaggerating, but I think she feels that this will be much more intrusive than it really will be. I think we find that a lot because people can't interpret the drawings. They're not fully aware of the existing conditions, because this garage is about 1.5 feet closer to her property line than the existing garage, and probably not all that much longer or higher, so that the impact will not be significantly more than the impact she feels now. And therefore, I second Peter's motion.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a motion to approve the application subject to forestry condition 1 and number 2 and the planning conditions. All in favor? The application is approved on those conditions. Thank you, everyone. So can we go back to 21? Have we managed to contact
Yes, Madam Chair, the
owner or agent?
Yes, the agent is on the line.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you identify yourself with your name and address for the record, please? Hello?
James, you are unmuted. You are able to speak. Just make sure you have a microphone plugged in and you are speaking directly into the mic with your microphone volume turned up.
Okay, while we're getting that sorted out, I'll just say what's before the committee: copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, staff report from the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry, and correspondence in support from Carl Lyons at 41 LEUTY. So is the agent or applicant online?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm just trying to give them a call.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can.
Okay. My
Okay, could I
sincere
have your name
apologies.
and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Jim Sod. The address that I'm representing is 43 LEUTY Avenue.
Okay. And there's no other speakers on this, moderator?
That is correct, Madam Chair, just the agent.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Panel members, do you need a presentation? Any questions? Okay, Mr. Saad, the panel doesn't have any questions. Is there anything that you want to let the committee know before we go to discuss the application?
No, just generally, and thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Chair and members of the committee. I do apologize for the technical difficulties there. I've been using these headphones all day long, so I don't know why I was not heard, but I was here from the very beginning. The application, as I see it, is relatively minor in nature and passes the 4 tests. The additional floor area is limited to the rear of the existing house and is within the existing building area. And as you can see, there is only one minor variance being requested. We also have a letter of support from the attached neighbor, so I don't foresee any issues with hopefully granting this variance.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're in committee now. Discussion or motion, please. Mr. Granenstein?
Yeah, this is a very minor application. I move that the application be approved, subject to forestry condition number 2.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Reed. Motion to approve, subject to forestry 2. All in favor? Your application's been approved. Thank you. We move on to item number 23, 33 Moreland. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, staff report from the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry, received January 19th. Correspondence in opposition from 393 Willard Avenue, 31 Moreland Road, 21 Moreland Road, 19 Moreland Road, 22 Moreland Road, and 26 Moreland Road. Moderator is the agent or the applicant online.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have the applicant along with 3 speakers, all in opposition.
Thank you very much. So could we have the agent and applicant please identify themselves with their name and address, please?
Paige Reish, are you there?
Hi, yes, Paige Reisha here. I'm the designer and applicant for 754 Windermere Avenue. My address is 222 The Esplanade, Toronto, Ontario, M5A 4M8.
Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. The owners are a family of 3 who bought their home back in early 2015 with the plan to rebuild the existing laneway house, which has been severely run down for decades. As we all know, Toronto has been experiencing a housing crisis for the last 10 years, and it's increasingly getting worse with inflation. The property is zoned as multi-residential, and the neighborhood has been designated as such in the official plan to encourage density growth. The proposed design is a 2-story laneway house with a stepped 2nd floor that contains the minimum sizes for 2 bedrooms, a small office, and living space.
Ms. Hughes, is she talking about 33 Moreland Road? Because I thought she was talking about, she said she was representing a different property.
Yeah, I'm representing 754 Windermere.
Okay, we're not on that application.
Okay, I was unmuted for some reason.
Okay, sorry,
Apologize, I'm sorry.
Good catch, Mr. Granenstein. Thank you. That's okay.
Sorry.
Things happen.
For item number 23, we have the agent along with 2 speakers in opposition on the line.
Thank you. Would the agent identify themselves and provide their address, please?
Hello. My name is Yadola Shadbakht. I am the owner of 33 Moreland Road. Now, dear members, please, in respect to all my objected neighbors, please remove the variances number 2 and 3.
Okay, just a moment. Just let us catch up here. So just a second. Okay, so we're looking at the hearing notice now, so go slowly tell us what you'd like to change.
Please, in the respect to all my neighbors, please remove variances number 2, 3, and 7. Number 2 and 3 is regarding the height of building that we reduced it from 8.68 to 8.5 to support the zoning requirements.
Okay, so the wall height variances and the eaves variances are being removed. Okay,
This was for the height of the building, and the
Yes.
variance is number 7 is for the roof eaves that we
Yes.
changed it from the 0.15 to 0.3 for again supporting the zoning requirements.
okay.
And
So
would you
those are the
please-
changes then. You're deleting variance number 2, number 3, and number 7.
Exactly.
Okay, so
And
can you
please
please make
show-
your presentation then? Thank you.
Please show the page number 85, that it's the new drawing, that it shows the new heights. Now we have just 4 variances that I believe that they are very minor. And additionally, the planning department support us. And we have the submitted supporting letter from the 4 neighbors, 6 family that for our plan, they already submitted. My house is in 122 years old. That's the oldest in the street, and it's in a very bad condition as per submitted pictures. I have a growing family and need extra spaces to live, and this changing the heights is just for the respecting to my neighbors. My neighbors. And now regarding the variances, regarding number 1 and number 6, I have a very narrow lot, but the current setback at the west side of my property is 0.37. That even I made it bigger to 0.46, although the west side of the property is to the backyard of the my neighbors, not to the side of the houses. And for the floor index that allows us for the 0.8, that I have already 0.89, that's very minor variance. And the house is it's around 2,000 square feet, but it's still very small and very reasonable in the size for a big family. It's because of just the garage. And regarding these, already, as I told, the planning department support us.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker at the moment, panel members? Okay, thank you. Could I have the next speaker, please?
Peter Formosa, you are unmuted and able to speak.
Good afternoon. Could we have your full name and address for the record, please?
Mr. Formosa, you can try to unmute your mic on your end, or increase your microphone volume, or plug your microphone in. Through you, Madam Chair, I can try giving them a call. In the meanwhile, we have the next speaker, Colleen Evans.
Thank you. Colleen, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you just give us your full name and address for the record, please?
Certainly. Thank you. My name is Colleen Evans. I live at 693 Willard Avenue. I'm on the property directly to the west of 33 Moreland.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. Your time begins now.
Thank you. We share the first 6 meters on the western edge of his property. First, I want to acknowledge that in my letter of opposition, it's been explained to me that I was comparing the total height of the current build of 10.9 meters to the side wall of a previous plan that was rejected, which was 10.14 meters. The actual height of that plan previously that was rejected was actually 11 meters. So technically speaking, this house is a little bit smaller in height overall, and the sidewall height obviously has been reduced. I understand that we are zoned to 3-story tall buildings with sidewall heights of 8.5 meters in our neighborhood, but really there are no buildings of that size in the direct influence of this neighborhood. We don't have houses that large. So to me, building this house is still does not fit in well with our neighborhood, does not fit in well with the existing buildings. It's too large. I really do not like the precedent it would set of building a building as physically large as possible on a lot with the small side, with very little airflow and not enough softscaping, in my opinion. It will impact a lot of the future plans in the building. I've had verbal assurances that they will do their best with the trees, the existing mature trees that are on the western property line, but I have difficulty trusting that those assurances when there's been nothing written, there's been nothing provided in written, and their tree declaration form was not filled in accurately, because there is a tree currently that is actually overhanging the existing building. So to build a 3-story building in that space, you're going to have to remove at least a third, if not more, of one of the existing trees just to provide space. And that I would not classify as a trim, which is how it was described to me, as a tree trim. And with one of the reasons I'm concerned is not just the aesthetics. My garage is directly on the western edge, so it's in line. If there's any instability with those trees, or if those trees become unhealthy, my garage is actually in the line of impact if there's any possible issues with those trees along the western edge of the property line. And that is basically all I had to share.
Thank you very much. Panel members, any questions of this speaker? Thank you. So I think we'll try to go back to Mr. Formosa.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Formosa.
Yes, this is Mr. Formosa. I live at 31 Moreland Road, which is directly east of the proposed build. I've lived here for approximately 28 years. I live in a 100-year-old home. I take issue with a number of things that Mr. Yadi Shazbot has said. First and foremost, it's a rental home. He's only lived there for approximately 1 year in the past, probably 8 years. He's a real estate broker, and he would like to flip this property. Now, my biggest concern about this build is the fact that his house that he's proposing is going to be 22 feet longer than my property, my existing home. I have a 2.5-story house, and in my objection, I noted, and I just happen to be an industrial designer, so I do know how to read drawings. My house is 39 feet 8 inches long and 19 feet wide. His proposal is to build a home 62 feet 4 inches long by 18 foot 1 inches wide, 22 feet longer than my home is right now. This will cut out half the light in my backyard in the summertime. It will cut out the sun going into my kitchen, and it's 3 stories high. It's not 2 stories, it's 2 stories on top of a garage. And I believe he is misleading everyone in what he's actually building. Basically, there's going to be no green space left on the property. There's presently no garage there. He wants to put a garage in the front. There are homes on the street which are very similar in size to that property, which are not nearly as obtrusive as this home. And furthermore, the property has been very ill-maintained for the past, ever since he bought the property. Just poorly maintained. We have problems with animals, rats. I don't believe he will live up to his commitments. The backyard has been raised 3 feet above everyone else's backyard. I have complained to the permit office. They have done nothing at all. The bylaw officers, nothing. Because of COVID, they won't even come around. It's been draining into my backyard, causing foundation issues for years. And basically, I believe it's overbuilt. It's way too big. And I don't believe it's fair that all of a sudden someone wants to build a home to maximize the size of it, the property. And that's what I believe. And I don't believe it's in the general intent of the neighborhood to build a home this size and scale on this size of property. First and foremost, I don't understand how he can put a garage in the front of the house on a 22 and a half feet, 23 foot wide property. It's going to take a parking spot out of the front of the property. And I just don't understand how.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions of this speaker? No. Okay. I believe that's the last of the speakers. We'll go back to the applicant for a rebuttal, please.
Hello, just in respect to all my neighbors, but most of the, as I told, they are complaining about the height, but just I changed it and I removed that variances for the, now I exactly, they are supporting the zoning by law and nothing more than that. And the second, one of the neighbors that complained about the depth of the building, but his property is almost double size of the land that they have it, that definitely will be the smaller depth will be. And there is no choice because there's a garage on the property and there were no choice for us to a little bit, you know, the longer lots because right now we supported it already by the planning. And the second, regarding the other neighbor that they complained about the trees, as I told her before, very respectfully, that we're not gonna do anything with the trees, just a couple branches that they are hanging on the property by the professional tree guys will be trimmed. And so that's all, and we'll follow all the rules by the tree departments. And everything will be by zoning, and that's all. And the variances that we removed everything, these three, because most of them is just for the respect to the neighbors. And I believe that is very, very reasonable and very ordinary house will be.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions of the speaker, Mr. Granatstein?
Yes, could you tell us why you require an extra 2.01 meters in building length?
Hello. My designer is over here. Can I ask her to answer your question, please?
My name is Natalia Ananyeva. I'm a designer of this project.
Okay, I need your address, please. Could you spell your last name for me, please, and then your address?
Ananyeva, A-N-A-N-I-E-V-A. Natalia. You have it on my drawings.
Okay, thank you.
And over there, my address requisites. I explained, it's pretty small house. We still have only 2,000 square feet house, and of course, because of the garage, we push it a little bit down, but we still follow all planning department recommendation and didn't go anywhere other way. Even reduce right now the height and whatever we can do in order to make our neighbors happy. That's what is only the reason. Hope I explained it. why it's deep enough. We have no choice. It's still pretty small house.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you point to any other properties that have the
One Morland,
length
one
that you're
Morland.
requesting?
One Morland, for example, it's on the same street. It's still pretty high house. It's even higher maybe than we are because it's really 3-story house. This is
So
house.
what's the length of that house?
Oh, we didn't. I didn't check it because there is no issue with planning department. That's why we didn't prepare this. We contact only yesterday with them to confirm that they are absolutely happy and there is no any concern about this one, and that's why it's this depth absolutely satisfied them. That's why we didn't prepare, but it's necessary. I will make research and prepare it for you. Sorry, I'm not ready for this.
Well, we're dealing with the application now, so that's why
Yes,
I'm
I
asking.
understand. I understand, but there is no. I don't have house particular depth one moment. I'm sorry, I'm not ready. But if it's only the issue, okay, we're ready for deferral in order to prepare it for next time if it's necessary. If it's still not persuade enough in our, no, that we are ready for everything and our house still pretty reasonable.
Thank you. Any other questions, panel members? Okay, thank you. We'll go into committee now for discussion or motion and a motion. Mr. Reed?
Thank you. I'm happy to start. The only issue I have with the house is the depth. And I think looking at the broader context, and especially the immediate neighbor, but not just the immediate neighbor, almost everything else in the vicinity is basically 20 feet shorter than this. So, I mean, we're only talking about the 2 meters of additional depth variance being requested. And that's my only issue with this project as it's being proposed. And but it's significant enough for me to say that I can't support it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, so we're talking 6 feet or so over the bylaw, but we're also talking about 2,000 square feet. I don't see that a 2,000 square foot house is too large a house. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the application subject to the amendments and to the forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Okay. Is there a seconder? Okay. So that motion fails. Another motion?
I move a motion to deny the application for the reasons stated before.
Right. So I would second that motion. My concerns are with respect to the length of the dwelling. Although it's 2 meters over the bylaw in the context of the area, I believe that it's an overbuild. I recognize the house isn't that large, but it's still in the context and character of the neighborhood. I think it's too far into the rear yard. Okay, so motion to refuse, all in favor? Mr. Granenstein dissents. Thank you. The application is refused. Go on to item number 24. 10 Conrad Avenue. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans and elevations received January 17th, email correspondence from the supervisor, development planning and review transportation services, Toronto and East York District, received January 7th, Staff report from Acting Supervisor Tree Protection and Plan Review, Urban Forestry, received January 19th. Correspondence and support from 10 Hillcrest Drive and 9 Conrad Avenue, and a total of 11 form letters in support, signed by owners and occupants of 5, 6, 11, 12, and 17 Conrad Avenue, and 41 and 47 Turner Road, 7 and 16 Conrad Avenue, and 51 and 53 Turner Road, and correspondence in opposition from 43 Turner Road. Moderator, do we have people online to speak to this application?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have the agent along with one other speaker in opposition on the line.
Thank you very much. Could the agent identify themselves, please, with their name and address for the record?
Yes, hello. My name is Michael Rivera. I'm acting on behalf of 10.
So you're a little choppy. Could you speak? Could you try that again, please?
My name is Mikey Oliveira. I am acting on behalf of 10 Conrad Avenue, and I'm with Replacement Design located at 911 Davenport Road.
Okay, thank you. Okay, could you please proceed? You have 5 minutes.
Certainly. So as you had mentioned, we have 12 letters of support. Our clients have also spoken to many of the adjacent neighbors and have dealt with concerns from the parties on either side in regards to privacy, and they have no further issues with our application. Upon designing the addition, it was important to us and the homeowners that we limit the increase to the overall footprint of the building as much as possible, and I believe we achieved this by limiting the size of our addition to that of the existing deck. And as you can see from the rear of our site plan here, as you're zooming in, we have stepped the addition as well on the 3rd floor to kind of break up any sense of towering that's often seen with these type of larger additions. I believe this helps kind of break up the look at the rear of the property and mitigate some of the privacy concerns that people would have as well. This is an area that is experiencing much growth, and although we're asking for an area of 0.55 floor space index, this is well in line with other applications the committee has seen on the street, such as neighboring 12 Conrad on our right, which was approved for 0.61, or 9 Conrad that was approved for 0.72. Similar to our FSI, our height variance is well in line with similar approvals in the area, such as 9 Conrad again, that had approval for a 10.2. So we're well below what's been done on the street already. And as for the variance related to the deck, with the ongoing situation, it's becoming more and more important for people to create these personal live work spaces that they can escape to when needed. And I think we can all agree after spending the last 2 years cooped up inside, it'd be nice to have these sort of outdoor amenity spaces that we can escape to when needed. And as I mentioned, upon discussions with some of the surrounding neighbors, our clients have agreed to install privacy screening on either side to limit the concerns of invasion of privacy in either direction here. Open any questions you might have.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions at this time? Okay, thank you. Could we have the next speaker, please?
The next speaker is Sheila Doherty.
Hi, Sheila, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm Sheila Doherty, and I live at
okay, thank you.
43 Turner Road, and I am directly behind the house on Conrad. We have no concerns regarding the 3-story addition. However, we have one concern, is that the 3rd floor will include an almost 21-foot deck, and it will overlook our garden, and it's a large glass-faced deck, and it's neither a minor variance nor desirable for this neighborhood. It sets a precedent. No other home here has 3rd floor decks, let alone large decks up on higher reaches of the home. And the issue of the size, the fact that it's got a glass railing system and its height will result in a loss of privacy and the enjoyment of our outdoor space, our garden. And also my concern is, given the size of the deck, whether with present owners or future owners, when you have people up that height, and these are large with properties of 50 by about 125, 135 foot properties, that this noise will carry, and it's an opportunity for large gatherings at a third floor height. But any other issues with it, we don't have with this addition. It's just the deck.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions of this speaker? Okay. Hearing none, we will go back to the agent and have their response to the comments made. Please and thank you.
Yeah, so our clients approached the neighbors quite early on, having approached this particular neighbor December 11th before the public notices went out. And they've been trying to work as much as possible to come up with something that they'd be happy with moving forward. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to come to an agreement just yet, but our clients are open to doing similar types of privacy screening to appease the neighbors. Our clients have no desire to look into the yards of any of their neighbors, and vice versa. Privacy is a concern for all parties. This deck, I know there's concerns about potentially having parties up here, but this is a third floor deck. This isn't something that's very usable from a entertaining point of view. It's a space that's going to be more so utilized in the summers. So, you know, lounge, read a book. This isn't a space that can really hold 20 plus people to host parties and whatnot. This isn't a bar on Dundas or anything. This is a home, and this is meant as just a space to go and escape to that would be peaceful and quiet. It's not a place that's going to be hosting parties on an upper deck here. It's too far from any of the major amenities of the kitchen and whatnot to really make it useful for that type of event. And if they were to host anything, they have a deck off the back that they could do this without a problem. There's no need to have people up on a third floor like this. And this deck is also located more than 50 feet from the rear property line. So we're well beyond kind of an easy viewable projection of privacy here. Like, you're not going to be looking out from the deck straight into their backyard. There's also large trees at the back, very mature trees that would block a lot of that kind of potential view into the neighbor's yard, especially to the rear. And we're also well in line other approvals. Within a 3-minute walk on neighboring Tyrell Street, there were similar decks approved with areas actually larger than what we're proposing here. So to leave all these factors kind of mitigate the privacy concerns and kind of show how it fits with the neighborhood overall. Hope any questions
Thank
about
you.
that?
Any questions, panel members? I just have one question with respect to the platform size. Given the size of the lot and the available amenity space in the rear yard and your comments with respect to the use of this deck, why the size then? And are the characteristics of the properties on Tyrell, I think you mentioned, where you are suggesting these decks of this size exist at the third floor, similar in a neighborhood context?
Yeah, so they have similar sized decks as well. On Tyrell, I know of one in particular that had an 11 square meter deck as well as a second deck, close to about 5.5 meters. So combined, those two areas were definitely beyond what we're proposing.
And the lots are similar size? And...
Yeah, it's literally a 3-minute walk from our property if you're looking at it on Google Street View. So similar sized lots, well within the neighborhood. As for what this area would be used for, as I mentioned, it's not really that big. It's only when you measure to the guardrails, about 7.5 feet deep if you look at our third floor plan. So there's not really much space up here to be hosting people. You could maybe put a couple of loungers down to, you know, sunbathe and, as I mentioned, read a book and relax out there, but it's not really going to be where you're hosting people having a barbecue. Right? It's really meant as a peaceful escape. And if you look at our third floor, you can also see the privacy screen that we've added already.
Thank you. Sorry, we're in committee now. Discussion or motion? Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I'll start. I think that this is a sensitively designed addition. The fact that they stepped the third floor back away from the rear property line, and the fact that the addition is clustered to one side. It's not a complete width addition. I think that massing goes to break up some of its bulk and some of its impacts. And I would agree with the applicant that the third floor deck doesn't concern me massively, given the depths of the lots and the actual distance to facing houses on the next street over. So I'll be supporting it. Don, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay, I move approval of the application, subject to urban forestry condition 2 and subject to their privacy screening being installed on the third floor balcony on the north and south side.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Mr. Cranstein, all in favor? The application's approved with those conditions. Thank you very much. We go on to the next application, number 25, 113 Lawton Avenue. The committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plan, and elevations, a photograph of the existing rear detached garage, received October 12th, a staff report from the supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry, received January 19th, a total of 15 form letters in support, signed by owners and occupants of 109, 112, 118, and 119 Lawton Avenue, and 17, 19, and 25 Hibernia Avenue, 105, 107, and 111 Lawton, 135 Lawton, 23 and 27 Hibernia, and 101 and 106 Lawton. Moderator, do we have any speakers on this other than the agent or applicant?
Madam Chair, we only have the agent for this application.
Thank you very much. Could you identify yourself and provide your name and address for the record, please?
Hello again, I'm Mike D'Oliveira with Replacement Design located at 911 Davenport Road, and I'm here representing 113 Lawton Avenue.
Thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions? Okay. Having no questions, do you have anything you'd like to say to the committee before we consider this application?
Just pointing out there's an existing garage there that's in need of desperate repair, so our new garage is basically fitting within the same space. We're just trying to comply as close as possible here with the parking dimensions that are required by the city. So we're actually improving on the existing parking depth that's there now. We're going from basically 4.9 to 5.2, so we're adding a little over a foot there. We also have support from the neighbor directly to the rear, so there's none of that same kind of concerns that you had heard earlier from neighbors about garages kind of projecting into their view. They're on board with it. We're really just trying to improve on the existing conditions here with this new garage.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're in committee now. Motion, discussion or motion, please. Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I'm happy to bring a motion. I think this is truly minor and really is it's just a modest increase over the situation now. And as the applicant stated, it's improving the zoning condition versus what's there currently. So I move to approve subject to urban forestry condition 1.
Do I have a seconder?
I don't have a note about urban forestry condition number 1. Do you, Joanne?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I missed it. I second the motion.
Okay. Motion for approval subject to forestry condition number 1. All in favor? Your application's been approved with that condition. Committee moves on to number 26, 50 Crescent Road. The committee has before a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 6 photographs of the subject property received October 1st, covering letter from Sean McGaffey, agent, received October 14th, previous decision of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the subject property, an arborist report prepared by Lexi Loon of Central Tree Care, tree protection plan from Central Tree Care, landscaping rendering from the agent received October 1st, correspondence from the agent in response to the staff report from Urban Forestry received January 21st. Staff report from the supervisor, tree protection and plan review, Urban Forestry received January 19th. Report from the program manager, Heritage Planning, Urban Design, City Planning received January 21st. Correspondence and support from 52A Clooney Drive, 42 Clooney Drive, and 27 Clooney Drive. Do we have speakers other than the agent or the applicant on this matter?
Madam Chair, we only have the agent for this matter.
Thank you. Could the agent please identify themselves with their name and address for the record, please?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sean McGaffey. I'm a senior urban designer and planner with W&D Associates, and I reside at 15 Roehampton Avenue, Unit 103 in Toronto.
Thank you. Panel members, do you need a presentation? Do you have any questions for the agent? Mr. Granenstein?
Urban Forestry has recommended we refuse variances number 3 and 4 relating to the building length and building depth. What do you have to say with respect to those variances?
If I could, if you could indulge me just for perhaps 2 or 3 minutes here, just to give you a rundown. We did prepare a submission in response to those urban forestry recommendations. It is my opinion that the intent of the official plan is maintained here. The proposed tree removal is associated with required foundation underpinning and the proposed car elevator in the front yard. And so, if I can just give you a very brief presentation, I think I can address that question for you in a more fulsome manner.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So we've prepared supporting materials included with the application submission, which you noted, including a heritage impact assessment from ERA Architects and associated renderings from Hurry Pontarini Architects. It also includes a landscape plan prepared by Ron Holbrook. And if I could turn your attention to perhaps page 3 of my submitted cover letter of October 14th, I think that gives a good impression of the rendering and the landscape plan at the same time for you. So in general, the proposed development provides for a 2-story side addition to the existing 3-story dwelling, along with a rear addition and relocation of the access from Crescent Road. So in the front yard area, the access will be shifted south away from the intersection and will provide for extensive landscaping with a flush-mounted car elevator to mitigate the visual impact of vehicles and hardscape on the public realm. And that car elevator that I refer to is down in the southern portion of the lot there. You see it as a pad in the hardscaping. And the way that works is there is no garage door, there is no below grade ramp associated with this project. You would pull onto that pad. The pad then descends to the basement level in the front yard where you can then park in the basement and rises back up to create this flush, clean landscape along the public realm with no intruding garages or anything of that sort. So towards the rear, the building progressively steps back to the 3rd floor where there's a landscape roof and terrace, which is further set back and screened to mitigate the potential for overlook to adjacent residences. And then from a tree preservation perspective, I've had the opportunity to review the urban forestry report and prepare a response to you, the committee. The reason that tree is being removed is what you see there with the red box. It is a Colorado blue spruce tree, and the car elevator and below grade underpinning works are within that TPZ. So it does require removal with respect to the other trees on site. The building has been sculpted around them, and you'll see those excerpts in my response to the urban forestry memo. We will be working with the owner of 48 Crescent to review the tree injuries that are required to trees 7 and 8. And those discussions will continue, of course. So my response to the urban forestry memo is really that the official plan is more than one individual policy. And when read on a balance as a whole with respect to heritage, with respect to built form, transportation, neighborhoods, the proposed development does conform to the official plan. It does maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, as is the test for a minor variance. And the owner has consulted broadly with his neighbors. I know you mentioned some of the letters of support that have been submitted. There are actually several more from 27 Cluny, 42 Cluny, 61 Cluny, 37 Cluny, 52 Cluny, and 52A Cluny, as well as 85 Roxborough. So this project is the result of a sensitive design exercise undertaken with our clients, the project architect, the project landscape architect, the project heritage architect, and of course Heritage Preservation Services staff, which they note in their report. So I'm happy to answer any questions of the committee at this time.
So I'm not sure, I may have missed it, I'm not sure you addressed the issue of the length and depth.
So the length and depth variances are required to facilitate that car elevator because it is connected to the below grade foundation. So the building length variance is measured from the the southern portion of that car elevator there that you see to the right, all the way to the extent of the building towards the rear lot line. That's why that variance is required. Otherwise, the basement does not require building length to be adjusted.
So what is the building length and depth without the car elevator?
Without the car elevator, we would be shaving approximately 3.672 meters off there that you see.
So when I was reviewing materials, and correct me if I'm wrong, it said that 22.72 above grade?
That's correct, and that's reflective of the existing condition along the southern side of the existing dwelling there.
And so that's for the length, and the existing depth of the current building is 21.4?
That's correct.
Okay. And with respect, I have one question with respect to the side yard setback, just to ensure that I've correctly noted what the submissions were. So you're looking for 5.2, but I understand the existing 6.6, but that the new south yard setback is going to range on the north side yard setback, will range from 5.2 to 8.2. So 5.2 is not for the full extent. I'm correct there?
You are correct, but if I could just correct one thing, that's actually the rear yard setback, which in this case
I'm sorry.
would be the north side.
Okay, sorry, rear yard setback.
You're correct. So you can on the site plan you can see that it's sort of, and I'm realizing you can't see my hands as I it out here, but you
never know these days.
If I could ask you just to zoom out perhaps just a little bit so we can see the whole lot here. So you can see that this western portion here is the 3-story existing part and where the rear addition is proposed. And that is where the 5.2 meter rear yard setback is required. And then you see the eastern portion there is pulled back further, and that's where the 8.2 meter rear yard setback is provided.
Okay, thank you.
How many cars can be accommodated underground?
A total of 3 cars.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, thank you. So we're going to go into committee now for discussion or a motion. I can start with some thoughts, I guess. When I first looked at this on paper, the variances look you know, quite large, a few of them. When I dug into the application, saw, you know, what is existing and what is proposed and some of the ranges of that, I'm less concerned. You know, I do take seriously you know, the position of urban forestry. Having said that, however, in the total context of the lot and the number of plantings and trees that currently exist, and the efforts to maintain those, I'm not certain that I would refuse the application based on that. But if I were to support this application, I would want an approval tied to plans so that there is no question with respect to what the length and depth refer to in terms of below ground and at grade.
I found it a little strange that urban forestry would talk about building length or building depth and didn't seem to have anything to do with trees. And now we've had quite a few applications where we've had underground parking or underground amenities where the length and depth had been affected by it, and where a good portion of that of the length or depth has been underground, and we passed it. I think there's going to come a point where, and we've had one or two where it's almost the whole lot is underground, but this isn't the case here. We're talking about 2 or 3 cars underground, and it extends the length or depth somewhat, but it seems the length or depth was already in excess of the bylaw. This is a big house. This is a big property. So I agree with Joanne, when you look into the application, the sizes, you know, seem to fit better than it just look at it on the surface. So I would be supportive of this application.
Mr. Reed?
Thanks. Yeah, I don't have much further to add. My only concern really was, related to the urban forestry comments about the length and depth. But I do think, looking at it in sum, and I think adding the elevator, which results in the loss of a tree, I think it does improve the actual look and urban design of the project, and lessens probably what could be significantly more hard landscape in the front for you to have a more traditional driveway. So I'll be supporting it too.
Do I have a motion then, please?
Sure. I'm happy to put forward a motion for approval subject to the heritage condition, subject to urban forestry condition 2, and as recommended by the chair, I think tying it to the site plan as well. I don't think we need to include the basement plan. No, just site plan.
Is that including the heritage condition as well? Thank you.
Yes.
Do I have a seconder?
Peter, would you just check and see it's forestry condition number 2? My note says 5, but I may have been.
I think 5 is their recommended refusal. But this was on a separate one. If refusal doesn't happen, then 2. That was my reading of it.
That's what I read as well.
All right. And I second the motion.
Okay. So a motion to approve subject to heritage condition, urban forestry condition number 2, and tying it to the site plan. All in favor? The application is approved on those conditions. The committee moves on to item number 27. Or now we're at 754 Windermere. 754 Windermere Avenue. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey excuse me, site plan, floor plans and elevations. Covering letter from Page Riche, agent, January 6th. Planning rationale from the agent, January 19th. Shadow studies from the agent, December 23rd and January 24th. Arborist report prepared by OnTree, October 1st. Tree preservation plan prepared by OnTree, October 1st. Staff report from acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry, received January the 19th. A form letter in support signed by the owners and occupants of 557 Willard Avenue, received January 19th. Correspondence and concern or interest from 563 Willard Avenue, received January 11th, and 555 Willard, received January 20th. Correspondence and opposition from 752 Windermere, which was received the 19th, and from 756, which was received on January 20th. So moderator, how many people do we have to speak to this application today?
Madam Chair, we have the agent and 3 additional speakers, all in opposition.
Thank you very much. So could we have the agent please identify themselves with their name and address? Now that we have the right order, thank you.
Hi, committee members. My name is Paige Reisha from Bloom Inc. at 222 The Esplanade, Toronto, Ontario. I'm the designer and the applicant.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Okay. The owners are a family of 3 who bought their home back in early 2015 with the plan to rebuild the existing laneway house, which has been severely run down for decades. As we all know, Toronto has been experiencing a housing crisis for the last 10 years, and it's increasingly getting worse with inflation. The need for affordable housing is dire more than ever. The property is zoned as multi-residential, and the neighborhood has been designated as such in the official plan to encourage density growth. The proposed design is a 2-story laneway house with a stepped second floor that contains the minimum sizes for 2 bedrooms, a small office, and living space, none of which would be possible if the minor variances for the side yard and building length were rejected. The minor variance for the building length is only being requested for the ground floor. The request for the 1 meter height variance is due to interior ceiling heights. If the height variance is not approved, the required structural design limits the ceiling height to 7 feet per floor. This would make the laneway house less desirable and possibly uncomfortable for future tenants. We've received 3 letters of support from 766 Windermere Avenue, 555 and 557 Willard Avenue. Both the owner and I have had several conversations with the adjacent neighbors at 756 Windermere and the neighbor across the lane at 752 Windermere Avenue regarding their concerns. We provided a shadow study that clearly demonstrates the proposed design will not impede on sunlight during the spring and summer months. In fact, with the removal of the catalpa tree, we have calculated there will be a 28% increase in sunlight. There will also be more water and nutrients available for the neighbor's tree. The owner has offered to pay and follow through with the arborist's recommendations for the tree at 756 Windermere Avenue. It is my opinion that the variances are minor, are in keeping with the official plan's intent for the neighborhood, and meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act.
Sorry. Any questions at this time, panel members? Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Andre Arbuckle. You are unmuted. Andrea.
Hi. Hello, I'm Andrea Arbuckle. I live at 752 Windermere, the house to the south of the property.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. I've lived here for over 18 years, and during that time, I've made extensive improvements to my house and my backyard, and wish to enjoy those things as much as possible. I feel like with the variances that are requested, as well as the size of this laneway house in general, that will be diminished. Currently, there's a 1-story laneway house, and for it to become a 2-story versus a 1-story will obviously be much larger, and will give a sense of being closed in my backyard. It's quite disproportionate in size to any laneway structures in our area, and not really in keeping with the neighborhood. Most importantly, it'll block light. I know that the actual shade is I'm not really getting a shadow, but in general, the light will be blocked, and it'll be very intrusive and imposing Basically, as I look out my kitchen window, I'll be looking to the right at a massive wall, black wall. So not very desirable. Of course, the higher this is, the worse the impact will be. And of course, the larger it is, the worse the impact will be to both my light and my view. Also, the architect had mentioned she had spoken to me. I never did hear from her, so I don't know why she said that. But the thing is, with it being for the for renters, it's not really keeping with that, because from my understanding, it's actually the owners that will be occupying it. So that's not really alleviating the issue that they're saying they are going to. So, so as I said, I think this will impact the enjoyment of my backyard. It will also impact my privacy, as there are going to be windows that look east, which basically is directly into my yard as well as my home. And because it's behind me, they'll be looking directly into my house as well as my property, especially their living space is on the second floor. So it will be where they're going to be kind of living. Another issue is property value. My understanding is that property values are diminished when laneway houses are built. Obviously, nobody wants to look at a big wall, so that would diminish my property value. The larger it is built, the more negative impact to my enjoyment of my house as well as my light and view. I understand, obviously nobody wants to look at a big wall. As such, I request that the variances be rejected. To bring it, for one, they want to make it closer to my property. What is required by the city is 1.5 meters, and they want to make it 0.92 meters closer. So I don't want it closer because that obviously impacts my view more. The length, they want it to be longer. Obviously, the larger it is, the more negative impact. As well, the height, they wish it to be an extra meter. This isn't really, I don't think, necessary. Like, they could make it, some slope ceilings or something. I feel like it could be still built where they compromise on those issues, not really the neighbors being compromised. They could build it with a different way. The compromises should be on their end, not really on my end to diminish my enjoyment of my home. Again, as I said, the major issues, it's going to be quite large, like in relative to what was currently there. Currently, it's a single story. And to have a 2-story, like basically in your backyard, is very obtrusive and will definitely diminish my enjoyment of my home. It's also not in keeping with the neighborhood. There's nothing else around looking like that. This is a family neighborhood, and there's not a lot of rentals, but it seems that their goal is to have multiple properties, not really to keep a sense of the family neighborhood that is pretty much the reason I moved in here. I do feel that it'll be an overbuild and will be very imposing and towering. Currently, as it's designed, it's basically a big black wall. So that's not going to be very nice to look at for anyone, and it's going to basically diminish my view as well as the light in general, as well as privacy. So yeah, in summary, I guess basically the big issues are my view and the light, the lack of light, and the closed-inness, feeling I'll get in my backyard that I don't really have right now. And it does set a big precedent for the future, which I'm pretty concerned about, because to have such a massive structure is not really in keeping. So the biggest of the variances, the most major one is the height, which I really do not wish that is passed.
So that's your 5 minutes. So if you could wrap up, please, that would be great.
Yeah. So the biggest issue, as I said, is the height. And then the second issue that of my concern is the getting it to be closer to me. I prefer that not happen as well, but definitely the height as well as the closest to the side lot line.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is David Wong.
Sorry, David.
David Wong.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. My name is David Wong, and my address is 752 Windermere. I think from
you have 5 minutes, Mr.
Thank
Wong.
you. Thank you. I think just to reiterate what Andrea was mentioning is that unless you're standing in the laneway, you really have no idea how close everything is and how ominous and how imposing a house of that size in a laneway is. I'll give you an example. For the first probably 10 years of us owning that house, I was the one who was shoveling that laneway because the city cars, vehicles pickup trucks couldn't even get in to shovel. You know, the laneway is probably 6 feet itself, if not less wide, so a car can barely get in there. So if you can imagine a structure that's almost of that size and in black of all things, in that laneway, it'll feel like you're basically in a box, even though you're sitting outside. I think the other concern I have is really around the fact that, you know, I understand the commentary around the city needing rental homes. I don't know if everybody knows the area. Believe me when I say there's not a lot of renters in the area. And when you're talking about renting a house that's going to be $3,000-$4,000 or $2,800, whatever it is the going rate is, that's not really addressing homelessness or the need for homes. That's just building another house to house a bunch of people and bringing more people in. And the other thing is that parking at its best is almost negligible. So you know, again, just in summary, my concern is really about the size of the house, given the size of the laneway, and how much it will really impede on the value of our house at 752, as it's just going to be basically in our backyard. So that's all for me.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Khalil Muhammad and Donna Mato.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Okay.
Can you give your
Good
full name
afternoon.
and address for the record, please?
Yeah, the name is Khalil Muhammad. It is 756 Windermere Avenue.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Okay, so in echoing the sentiments of our neighbors to the south of us, our issue is mostly to do with the imposing size of the house as it's being requested. You know, you guys have before you two things. You have the arborist report, and you also have our letter that we filed with you guys a couple of weeks ago. You know, the biggest issue we have is the not only with the size of the property, but it's also the enjoyment of our backyard. Our backyard is going to look directly onto the property. We can, you know, you can see that right now in the pictures that have been provided to you, the structure right now is a single story with a small peaked roof. What's going to be replaced is a 2-story, very large, dark, imposing structure, which will affect the enjoyment of our backyard. Right now, our backyard is you know, a place of tranquility, a place it's serene, it's pleasing to be there in the summertime, to have the kids play in the backyard. You know, the difference now is that we're concerned that even with the structure being to the letter of what is allowed by the city, that it's going to be a big imposition. It's going to look really big and take away from the aesthetics of the neighborhood and the value that we worry, the value of our property. You know, we have a 30-plus-year-old tree that is, you know, yes, we understand that the shadow reports have been given, and we've had our own arborist come and give us his report as well. You know, we're concerned that the tree itself might be damaged with the roots. The neighbor has graciously said that he's going to protect the roots when he does the excavation. You know, but I mean, you know, when we can see right now, if we look out the window, you know, we'll be able to see this tree, and we see that how the aesthetics of the neighborhood and how the aesthetics of the houses are they're in line. Everything flows really nicely in the neighborhood, especially in the back lanes. From our second floor bedroom, we'll be looking directly at this new house that's going up. One suggestion or possible suggestion that we might have for the architect is maybe pushing the house further back towards the west, to take it away from the sight line. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of different issues that come with that, but that's really what we're trying to say is the pleasing aesthetic peacefulness that we have in our backyard. I think will be greatly diminished by, not only by, obviously, they're allowed to build what they want, what they can build within the legal limits, but by extending it to even more height and depth and width, to us it seems like it's an overreach, and I don't think that we don't think that we can really support this.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the speaker panel members?
Yes. Have you had discussions with the applicant?
Sorry, are you asking me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, as far as what, sir?
Discussions as far as what they want to do and what they intend to do with respect to the laneway house.
Yes, we've had discussions with them. We had a meeting with the architect, and we've made our concerns. I think we made our concerns clear. We're worried about the size.
Okay.
And we're worried about our tree.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any more speakers? Moderator?
Madam Chair, there are no more speakers. We can go back to the agent.
Thank you very much. So, could you please respond to the concerns and objections that have been raised, please? Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Sure. So I'll address Andrea first at 752 Windermere. I have not spoken with Andrea personally, but Troy, the owner, has spoken with Andrea on several occasions throughout the last couple of weeks and has been very transparent on the intent of the design, and has, asked her, what we could do to change things, and she ended up writing the letter. So I want to clarify that there is a laneway between 754 Windermere and 752 Windermere. Andrea's property is not directly adjacent to 754. The southern wall is 9.55 meters from the property line of 752. So that's quite a substantial distance away. The Manitoba maple tree at the rear of the property will actually be removed and will increase the views of the sunset for 752 Windermere. So that tree up right there, that will be removed. So the two windows at the back of the laneway house, these are facing the main house. If you can go to the elevations, it will be a little bit easier to demonstrate this. So if you go to the rear, so next one, I believe. Yes, perfect, right there. So those two little windows, those are located in the kitchen of the laneway house. So the windows are situated on both sides of the stove, which are also between the counter and the wall cabinets. They are strategically placed to provide ventilation when cooking and eastern sunlight while also maintaining privacy for the neighbors. The sill height of these windows is counter height at 36 inches. The height of the window is 16 inches. So a little bit of math here, that equals 52 inches. Therefore, the only people that could see out the window would be below 4'4". So that would be very minimal on privacy, a very minimal impact on privacy. So to address Khalil, it is, we can see where you want to suggest pushing the house back to the west. However, that's going to open a whole can of worms with landscaping requirements. And I just don't think that will be possible. We do step back the second floor significantly from the first floor. So we are, compensating in that way by pushing it further that way to the west. And as I've mentioned before about the tree concerns, we will actually be having more sunlight available to your tree. And like we both have already mentioned, the owner is going to pay for the trenching that is needed to protect the roots of the tree as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, panel members?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Granenstein?
Yeah. So let me just go through the variances with you. Is variance number 1, where the laneway suite will be located 0.92 meters from the south lot line, is that an existing condition?
No, it's not an existing condition.
How far is it? How far is the existing laneway house from the south lot line?
It's about 2.5 meters, I believe.
Okay. And the length of this building, I assume that's not an existing condition either.
Correct.
Okay, so how much more in length is this building than the existing one?
The existing one is an additional 3 meters. Sorry, 2 meters.
And the height, variance number 3?
Yes.
Not an existing condition. I think you told us it would be 7-foot ceilings unless you got 7 meters. I don't understand that.
Yep, so that would be because of the floor structure and the roof structure. The way it's been designed by an engineer is we need about 1'2", and the top, as you can see, the ceiling finish to the roof ridge is 1'10". So that is the structure that is impeding on what is going to be allowed for ceiling height. So if we have 6 meters, that's less than 3, or that's about 3 feet less than what we would be proposing. So therefore, that amount has to come out of the ceiling heights.
Okay. So I understand that you or your client have had discussions with the neighbors, and they've all objected to the house on grounds of it's too big.
Yes, we have received rejection from 756 and 752, but support from the rear neighbors.
Okay. So I see this as something that's, we haven't seen this sort of stark difference between neighbors and people intending to build laneway suites, but I see that it could be something that's going to be relatively common. I understand that these people are unhappy that you're going to build a laneway house at all, 2 stories, and even if you built it within the bylaw, I think they would be unhappy. But our concern is these extra things, the closeness to the lot line, the length, and the height, as to why those are necessary, and makes it more difficult for us to approve the application.
So for the side yard setback, that is in part because we have a staircase that is at least 3 feet wide. So that severely impacts the layouts on both levels. The space above on the 2nd floor would not be usable space because of head clearance heights. So if we had to push back to what is the allowed 1.5 meters, it would significantly impact, what we could actually put inside the house. We wouldn't be able to have 2 bedrooms. It would be very, very small in contrast.
And the height as well? Need the height?
Yeah, so the height would be because of the ceiling height. We want to try to maintain 8 feet for both floors because that is standard and what's most popular. A lot of tenants would not even look at a place that, especially if it's not a basement apartment, they're going to look at something like this and be like, why did they do this? I don't want to live here. Why would I pay to live here when it's, it's only 7 feet height below standard? So it is significant in the overall design and the overall livelihood of, or the livable conditions of the future tenants for this place.
Right, so I understand that 8 feet, I have a grandson who's 6'3". We just rented an apartment for him. And there were some that we couldn't rent because the ceilings were too low. But, but I assumed that the city, when they passed the bylaw and said 6 meters, and you can have 2 stories, I assumed that they calculated that you could have 8-foot height ceilings.
Well, from the drawings, if you look back at the elevations or the sections, you will be able to see that I can also provide structural engineering approved drawings that have been done prior to show that that's what the floor structure needs to be, unless we were to convert all to steel, which is extremely expensive and definitely out of the client's budget. I don't see there being an option for us to have 8-foot ceiling heights within the 6 meters. And I will mention, there was another house that was approved, or another application that was approved on 98 Brookside. They had their same thing, a laneway house. The height was approved for 6.56 meters. So if this application is verging on the too excessive amount, would it be possible to compromise at the approved height that was for 98 Brookside?
Well, you're going to have to get instructions from your client to consent to that and put it to us. And I mean, we'll have to make a decision as to whether that's acceptable to us. But it would be more acceptable to me than 7 meters.
I've spoken with my client already. They're fine with that if it means that the application will be approved.
Well, I can't give you that guarantee. So what do you say you're changing the height to in variance number 3?
6.56 meters.
Okay. Any other changes?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reed, you have some questions?
Yes, thanks. While we're on height, I just wanted to confirm, because looking at the sections, it looks like the finished height on the second floor is 10'2" or 3.1 meters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very high floor to ceiling. So I don't get the 7-foot height, right? When we're talking about, that's 3 feet right there. And I think the other thing is the entire building's raised up because of the basement, right? I think if you didn't have a basement, it could be lower by 0.5 meter or so.
Well, we are actually, we're only 6 inches above grade, which is the minimum that we can do. So we can't go any lower. The 3 feet would just completely wipe out the second floor to 7 feet, yes.
Right, okay. The other question I have is about the site plan. And I saw on the arborist drawings and on street view that there was a parking space in between the laneway house and the main house. Is that, I just want to confirm that what's shown in the site plan that's being grasped in between the main house and the laneway house, and then to the rear of the laneway house is actually grass?
Yes.
Okay. And then I didn't understand as well what the complications were to pushing it further back, or what the motivation is to keeping it in the place where it is. Is that just to provide more private space for whoever's in there and towards the rear?
No, it's actually to do with these, I believe, the setback for the laneway plus the landscaping requirements that are required for the bylaw. We have a proposed porch, so that eats up, a portion of the rear backyard there. So I believe it's 85% that we need to have landscaped. Yep, 85%. So we are, if we push it back further, we're really going to have some problems back there with the landscaping requirements. So this is ideally the best position where we're complying with all of the other variances, or sorry, all the other bylaws. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
is-
understand.
Okay. So is there, are you, because many of the laneway houses that we have seen are not as far forward on the lot as this one being proposed, and they have landscape requirements as well. Is there an intention to park behind that laneway house?
Like in between the main house and the...
No, between the rear wall or the balcony and porch of the laneway house and the rear laneway.
No, there's no intent to park there.
So there's no parking provided on this lot at all?
No. There will be potentially for the grass area, but that will be only temporary from what I understand.
So, sorry?
For construction.
So you are going to park on the grass?
For construction, yes.
Okay, so, yeah, because I, in terms of the siting of the garage, given the surrounding, buildings, I was having difficulty understanding why you wouldn't push it back further. And also, this has got a full basement and 1,375 square feet on the first and second floor. So this is quite a large laneway suite. Is there others of this size in the area?
No, but there is no FSI requirement or variance for this. And we don't have, we don't count the basement for...
No, I understand that, but it contributes to the length and the length variance is providing additional inside space as well, so, okay.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Panel members, any further questions? Okay, thank you. We're going to go into committee now for discussion and a motion. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to take one moment. I just want to confirm you are asking us to amend the variance with respect to height, so that you're asking us to consider a height of 6.56 as the variance instead of 7?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
I'm happy to start. I think, just looking at the variances themselves, they're not that extreme. But I think it's unfortunate the way this was designed. I think pushing it way further back and then going for a rear yard landscape variance would have been probably a kind of smoother path for this, but whatever, that's not before us. I don't really have any significant concerns with the side yard setback or the length. I think those are very minor, and I think a lot of the concerns the neighbors had are just because there's going to be a laneway suite there, whereas this is an intended, a specifically intended consequence of city policy, and I think this is quite close to what they're envisioning. I do have problems with the height, so I would be inclined to refuse variance 3 and approve variance 1 and 2, but I think what's being proposed for height is excessive when you've got over 10 feet on the second floor, and I don't think that's the intent of the bylaw.
So you would not be in support of the amended height either? Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I agree with Peter. We were told that unless they got 7 meters, the heights would have to be 7 feet, and I agree that 7 feet is not very desirable for living space, but now Peter's pointed out that the space on the second floor would be, at 7 meters, would be over 10 feet. And we're taking off 1.5 feet from the height with the amendment, which still is in excess of 8 feet. So I think it's probably still too high. And I think, as Peter said, we can't do anything about the fact that the neighbors are concerned about a laneway house at all, but we can certainly deal with an overreach. I think that 6.56 is still an overreach. If you've still got more than 8 feet height in the second story. So I would not support this application either.
Okay, I have a little bit of a different view. I wouldn't support 7, but I think 6.56 is not beyond some of the other amendments we have made. I would prefer that the laneway suite be situated further to the rear of the property. Having said that, however, there are no landscape variances either between the existing house and the proposed laneway suite or to the rear of the laneway suite. There's no separation distances between the main house and the laneway suite as proposed. That's not a variance. There's no penetration of the angular plane. They have set back the second story. Yes, it is a large structure and much different than what's there. I don't have a concern with the side yard setback because it's facing the laneway on the other side, and I could support the application. That is my thoughts, but I'll look for a motion.
So, Joanne?
Yes.
How much space is there between the lane and the beginning of the laneway house?
0.92 meters.
That's the setback. Do you mean from the rear lane or the side lane, Carl?
Rear lane.
I'd have to just look at the plans.
7.79 meters.
So that's quite a, is there a reason why it's set back that
Okay, are we
far?
coming out of committee?
I want to ask a
Okay,
question.
so we're gonna come out of committees to ask a question. Thank you.
Yeah. So is there a reason why it's set back that far? Because it seems to me that's one of the reasons the neighbors might be objecting to it, and that it impedes upon their enjoyment of their backyard more, I would think, it's where it is than if it's right at the back.
Yeah, so this is because we have a rear porch, a front porch for the lane house, which is in the rear yard there. So because of that area, it impedes on the overall landscape requirements, and that's why we didn't do that. So we have only 3 minor variances instead of potentially a lot more. So we have done that for that reason.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Sorry, I muted myself. Mr. Reed?
Yeah, we're back in committee?
Yes, we're back in committee.
I'm going to put forward a motion for approval of undemended application. So approval of variances 1 and 2 and refusal of variance 3, subject to urban forestry condition 2.
I have a seconder for that motion.
Yeah, I can support that motion.
Okay, so a motion to approve variance 1 and 2 and refuse variance number 3. All in favor? Okay, and I'll dissent. Okay, the application is approved in that context. So approval of 1 and 2 and refusal of variance number 3. Thank you. Committee now moves on. It's 4 o'clock, so I think the committee is going to take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at, let's just round it off and say 4:15. Thank you. We'll come back with item 28. Okay, are we ready to start? Okay. So we're back and we're starting with item number 28, 88 Pine Crescent. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received December 31st. Covering letter from Felix Leitcher, agent, received January 12th. Email correspondence from the support assistant C of Ravine and Natural Feature Protection, Urban Forestry, received January 19th. Staff reports from the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, Urban Forestry, from January 19th. The planner from Toronto Region Conservation Authority received January 19th. Correspondence and support from 73 Pine Crescent. 2 form letters in support signed by the owners and occupants of 84 and 90 Pine Crescent. And correspondence in opposition from 90 Pine Crescent. Moderator, who do we have to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we only have one person. We only have the agent online. It's Felix Leitcher.
Thank you. Go ahead, please introduce yourself and provide your address for the record. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Felix Leitcher. My address is 26 Hazel Avenue, Toronto.
Thank you. Panel members, do you require a presentation? Do you have any questions? Okay. Mr. Granenstein?
Yeah, applicant variance 2 and 3 with respect to building length and building depth are quite large. Are they existing conditions, or why are they so large?
That's correct. These are existing conditions. The proposed addition to the back doesn't extend that far as the existing. It's actually set back approximately 5 meters from the existing rear wall.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? So, do you have anything you wish to tell the committee before we go to consider the application?
I think what I wanted to say was just addressed by the question of Mr. Cranstein.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're in committee, members, discussion or motion? Peter?
Thanks. I think that the point raised by Don and the applicant is the only real point of concern, and I think that this is a good application. I think it's intensifying a site in a very sensitive way, remaining within the existing footprint, and kind of retaining the massing away from more sensitive sites with the neighbors. So I think it's fully worth supporting. So I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you. So moved and seconded, motion to approve subject to forestry 2, all in favor?
Is there a, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, is there a ravine condition as well?
Not that I'm aware of.
Something about a permit. I think ravine and natural features.
Okay, maybe I missed something. Just a moment, I'm going to pull up the materials.
It's through an email correspondence from Ravine.
Yeah, it said no condition. That email of January 19th?
Yeah, it's the second portion though. They're dealing with 2 applications. The second application is Pine. And the first application is 19 Riverside.
But I see it says A1250, it says Pine Crescent, and then it says no condition.
Oh, but then it says they're still required to submit a complete permit application for review.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so subject, that's fine. Just let's put that on then. Are you okay, Peter, with that amendment to your motion?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, and Dawn, you're fine with that then?
I am.
Thank you. So having said that, so we have a motion to approve subject to forestry and ravine and natural protection. All in favor? Your application is approved on those conditions. We now move on to item number 29, 150 Manor Road East. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received January 18th. A number of decisions of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the properties at 3181, 101, 103, 146, 148, and 166 Manor Road East. Email correspondence from Ali Shakiri, the applicant's agent, received January the 11th. Staff reports from the Manager of Traffic Planning and Transportation Services of January 10th and January 20th. Acting Supervisor, Tree Protection and Plan Review, Urban Forestry, received January 19th. And a 20 signature petition in support signed by the owners and occupants of 125, 127, 129, 130, 131, 132, 135, 139, 146, 148, 152, 154, 160, 162, 166, and 168 Manor Road, and 233, 239, 245, and 257 Hillsdale Avenue, received on January the 10th. Moderator, do we have anyone other than the agent or owner speaking to this matter today?
No, Madam Chair, just the agent.
Okay, thank you. So could we have the agent identify themselves and give their address for the record, please?
Ali Shakiri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Panel members, do you require a presentation? Do you have any questions of Mr. Shakiri? Mr. Grandstein?
Mr. Shakiri, variance number 8, the rear third-story balcony will have an area of 46.53 square meters. What? And you're entitled to 4 square meters.
Yes, sir. There is a presence of that concept in the neighborhood. There are several other homes, including number 168 Manor Road, the homes on the back street, number 247 and 257 Hillsdale. They have the same concept, so there is a presence of the same concept in the area. Having said that, this matter has been discussed by almost all of the neighbors. We have the 2 neighbors immediately on the east, 2 neighbors immediately on the west, 4 neighbors immediately opposite side of the street, and 4 neighbors to the back side, plus several other neighbors have signed in support of this. Also, we have been in contact with the building department, with the planning department. They also do not have any objection to that. So we do hope that is acceptable to you as well.
So are there concerns about privacy? In other words, should you have screening?
Not requested by any of the proximate neighbors. We have a parapet wall going around this balcony that would, I believe, provide adequate screening. But if it was asked, I mean, we basically don't object if you want to impose additional conditions, but it's not been requested by any of the approximate neighbors nor the planning.
Okay.
I have one question, Mr. Shakiri. Those other examples of the platforms, are they this similar size to what you're requesting? And I know that it's called a roof yard, not a balcony or a platform. So that's a new term. I haven't seen that one used before.
Well, yes, it's whether they call it roof yard or a balcony. By zoning bylaw, it's considered a balcony. So
no, I understand. I just hadn't heard that word before. But from a size perspective, is it comparable to the ones that you gave Mr. Granenstein an example of?
Yes, it's very comparable. I would have provided more accurate dimensions if I knew about this, but number 257 on Hillsdale Avenue East, immediately on the back side, has a very similar size. By looking at the Google images, I cannot tell exactly if it's a little bit larger or it's a little bit less, but it is very comparable. So is the one on number 247 Hillsdale, and also number 168 Manor Road East. They all have very comparable size, maybe a little bit larger or a little bit less.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further questions, panel? Okay, Mr. Reed?
Sorry, thanks. I just wanted to confirm, there was a transportation condition, but it's my understanding that that is now moot, that there's only one curb cut. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. There is a more recent report from transportation with a condition that is completely acceptable by us, and we no longer have two curb cuts, we have one curb cut.
Okay, thanks.
I have to mention that the forestry condition is also acceptable to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other further questions? Okay, having seen none, let's go into committee. Discussion or motion? Mr. Reed?
Sure. I'm happy to bring a motion for approval. I think this is, the variances requested are minor, and I think they're in keeping with what's happening in the neighborhood. And I think the massing, particularly at the third floor, is sensitive. I would move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2, and I'll look for my colleagues' insight here whether it's still required for transportation.
Transportation had another comment that said the applicant procure and maintain front yard parking license for the site. That was our condition.
Okay, and the transportation condition, Chair.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Okay, seconded by Mr. Granstein. Okay, all in favor? The application is approved with those two conditions. We move on to item number 30. 134 Clifton Road. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations. Revised site plan, floor plans and elevations received January 13th. One photograph of the existing dwelling and neighboring properties from the street received January 13th. Correspondence from Enzo Lacasano, the agent, regarding revisions received January 13th. Email correspondence from the zoning examiner received January 18th. Correspondence in opposition from 140 Clifton Road and 136 Clifton Road. Moderator, how many people do we have to speak to this item? Please and thank you.
Madam Chair, we have the agent and one person in interest.
Thank you very much. So could the agent please identify themselves with their name and address for the record, please?
Enzo Lacasano, you are unmuted and able to speak. Enzo, if you can unmute yourself on your end, increase your microphone volume, or ensure that your microphone is plugged into your computer. Through you, Madam Chair, I can try giving Enzo a call.
Okay. We'll wait just a second to see if you can connect that.
Hello.
Hello. Is this Mr. Lacasano?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Could you identify yourself with your name and your address, please?
Sure. My name is Enzo Lacasano. I'm at 130 Bridgeland Avenue in Toronto.
Thank you. we have one person who wishes to speak, so you have 5 minutes to make your presentation, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering if I can get staff to show the photo of the front of the house with the adjoining neighbors. Perfect, thank you. The reason for the revision to the drawings, we had a discussion with planning with regards to the pitch of the front of the roof. We're the center house there with the big white gable. What we looked at was the elevations on either side of us and down the street. So what we created was a more gentle slope in the front, a smaller dormer to simulate what the majority of houses have on this street. So what we looked at was, in order to get planning on board, they agreed that the reduction of the slope was sufficient. The height of the building is no taller than what's there now. It does create a variance because the back portion of the roof is flat. If not, we would be allowed 11 meters to the peak. So that's what the first variance was created. Now the second variance, it says, well, there's no 3 stories allowed. Well, every house on this street has a 3rd story, and it's such a small pocket, and all the houses around this area, outside our little zone, sorry, it's outside that RD square, is all 3-story buildings are allowed. Again, planning had no issues with that as well. Now the FSI, we did a search of the houses on Clifton, Cornish, and Heath, and the FSIs all range, they're all above 0.6, and they go up to about 1.07. So we're well within the floor space index that is allowed in that area. And the setback is purely a technical variance where we're just meeting what's there now with the roof overhang, and there's not much of a roof overhang with the 3rd story at all. Other than that, we've reached out to the neighbors. I believe one of the neighbors is actually going to speak. We issued her drawings, but there was no interest to discuss the project, so I guess she'll forward her comments at this time. Oh, sorry, go ahead. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker at this time, panel members? Okay, no. So we could have the next speaker, please, moderator.
Sorry, the next speaker is Trish Mclean.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Do you give your name and address?
Trish McLean at 136 Clifton.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
So I just to counter, I was only sent a letter through the mail from the City of Toronto about this, and then my neighbors next door had contacted me about something else to do with a raccoon in the backyard, and then said, "Oh, did you get the letter?" So I was not approached in any way, shape, or form for a conversation, which I would have liked. So I got that letter the week before Christmas, and now here we are, January 26th. So it's been a pretty fast timeline, and they've been away for a month, so there has been no time for discussion, just to defend myself. Second of all, I only have a problem with the back of the house because of my backyard. I sent pictures to show you that my backyard is my lot is less than half the size of their lot. So currently right now their house already extends at least 10 feet out, which is fine. And I have that was like that when I bought my house. But if you look at what they're proposing, they're already grandfathered because their lot is really, or their house is currently built too close to mine. So if it says here on the variance that the yard setback is, the side yard setback is 0.9 if I'm correct, and they're at 0.46. So I don't understand, that's where they currently are. So if they're going to come closer, they're already almost touching my house. The roofs almost touch. I can hear their children running up and down the stairs when I'm sitting in my living room. So I just have a concern about the backyard only. I don't have a concern about anything else. It's just, I don't need to have a 3-story brick wall closing me completely in, which you can see in the pictures of the cedars. The cedars are very old. They're not going to survive somebody digging 4.46 meters away from where they are, because they're really mature trees. They provide extreme privacy for my whole backyard. My backyard has no obstructed views with respect to any other buildings, and it's a very small, I would feel like I was in prison because it's just a brick wall and it's 3 stories high. And so I have a really big problem with this setback, because I think it actually infringes on my land value, because my lot is so much smaller than their lot. So my resale value of my house would be significantly impacted by the enjoyment of the backyard that would now become a closed-in area with a complete brick wall on the side. So that is the biggest issue that I have. And I currently have lots of animals, like birds. Those trees are a huge source of nature, and the light would be affected for the sunlight that would come, because their house would block the sunlight that I get. A lot of sunlight in my backyard, especially the afternoon sunlight would be affected significantly. So I just basically, that's my issue, is that I understand they want to build a nice house, that's fine, but I do not want to be closed in my backyard, so that I no longer have outdoor space that is desirable.
Thank you very much. Panel members, any questions of this speaker? Thank you. So we'll go back to the agent to respond to the comments that have been raised.
Hi, Mr. Locasano, you have been unmuted to respond back.
I'm here.
Would you like to, could you please respond to the issues that have been raised by 136?
Sorry, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, could staff bring up the objection letter so I can pull up the photos that she attached? Yeah, just one, sorry, one more. Just go down one more. Perfect. So the addition is not going to be any closer than what it is now. The house is actually skewed. The 0.46 is actually at the northeast corner of the property. As the house goes further back, it does go further away to 0.536 at the back. With regards to the finish, and again, that's irrelevant. It's actually not a brick wall. It will be stucco. But as you can see here, with regards to the light, this is a winter shot. And as you can see, there's absolutely no impact to the neighbor's rear face or rear yard. As everyone knows, the east is not sort of directly east, it's rotated. So as the sun comes around, yes, during the day, there would be shadow, but the shadow's already being created by the existing roof. And we're not going to be any larger than or taller than the existing roof, or we are not even going to be closer to the property than it is now. So there is zero impact on those trees and the actual light that the neighbor can enjoy. And in the summer, that sun is much higher up in the sky, and there would be even less of an impact on that rear wall and much earlier during the day. With regards to the space, our client has 3 kids. Currently, they're in bedrooms upstairs that they keep bumping their heads on, and that's really the main reason why we're looking to create that additional space up there, so that it's at least usable space. But we also wanted to recognize the front and respect the architecture of the street, and that's why we sloped the roof away from the property and actually got rid of that big gable, which was more intrusive than it is now. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions? Mr. Granstein?
Yes, the neighbor implied, or at least I got the impression from what she said, that you were extending your house back.
No.
So that it covers more of a yard. I see from your application.
There is, sorry, there is a small extension to the one-story bay at grade level of approximately 1'9". But it will not be any wider than what's there now. The bay is just being extended by 1'9" at the one-story level.
So the only thing you're doing is raising the roof a little on the third story?
Basically, we're filling in the two corners, but we're not raising the roof. The roof height is actually going to be the exact same height that's there now. Basically, we're going to fill in the two triangles. If you look at the, I guess, west elevation on our drawings,
So it's going to be
it'll be a
flat
little
roof
bit more
versus
clear.
peaked roof.
Sorry?
It'll be flat roof versus peaked roof.
That's correct. So we're filling in the two sort of sides. There you go. Yep, that's perfect.
Okay.
So the part on the right is much further forward. So it's basically that back portion where the two big windows are. That's really where the increase is. In order to make it a livable space, and we kept it, you know, we didn't go over in height. We kept it a modest 8 feet, which is standard, because we really didn't want to go over the height of the existing building.
Thank you.
Any further questions, panel members? I just have one question, just as the owner of 136 raised it. Will there be, with the addition of the 1.9 inches on the first story addition, any impact at all to the cedar hedge that's there?
No, no, because there's the excavation there. We're using helica piles, so there is no digging required.
Okay.
They don't want a foundation wall under there, so there's zero digging on that side. We'll be drilling 2 holes, one on the 136 side and one on the other side, and that's shown on our basement plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, panel members, no further questions? Okay, so we're into committee now for discussion and a motion. Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I'm happy to move approval of this application. I think that it's, the applicant clearly described, and the materials were good, that it's filling in the roof to become a flat roof and not extending out meaningfully in the rear. So I think the impacts on the neighbors are going to be very, very minor, and I think it's supportable. So I move approval with no conditions.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Granstein. Okay, we have a motion for approval with no conditions. All in favor? Your application is approved. The committee moves on to item number 31. 94 Dovercourt Road. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and presentation material from Adam Brander, the agent, received January 19th. Moderator, other than the agent or applicant, is there any other speakers on this matter?
No, Madam Chair, just the agent.
Thank you. Could the agent please identify themselves and give us their address, please?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Adam Brander. My address is 49 Bolton Avenue in Toronto.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation? Do you have any questions? Mr. Brander, the committee has no questions. Is there anything you want to say to the committee before we discuss this?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're in committee, discussion or motion? Mr. Reed?
Thanks. It's similar to the last application. I think this is a sensible and an approvable application, just basically intensifying the site by way of filling in the roof. Also context, I mean, it's very close to mid-rise development on Queen Street. And so I think this fits in well in its immediate context. So I move to approve with no conditions.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. So moved and seconded to approve with no conditions. All in favor? The application is approved. The committee moves on to item number 32. 164 Indian Road Crescent. The committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 12 photographs of neighboring properties received January 17th, 3 photographs of the subject property received January 17th, covering letter from Sunny Gervin, agent, received January 17th, correspondence and support from 178 Indian Road Crescent, 156 and 158 Indian Road Crescent, 165 Indian Road Crescent, 166, 172 Indian Road Crescent, 367 Indian Grove, 170 Indian Road Crescent, and 171 Indian Road Crescent. Moderator, do we have any other speakers other than the agent and or owner?
Just the agent.
How are your readers?
Thank you.
Good.
Could the agent or owner or the agent identify themselves for the record? Name and address, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Sunny Gervin at 115 River Road, Feversham.
Thank you. Panel members, do you need a presentation? Do you have any questions? Seeing no questions, Ms. Gervin, do you have anything that you'd like the committee to know before we consider this?
I don't. Thank you, though, for your time and consideration of the file that we sent in. I appreciate your work on this.
Thank you. Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion? Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I think this is a commendable application, partly due to the broad neighborhood support, which we don't always see, and so that's quite impressive. And I think that the actual design and the massing of this has been articulated with quite a bit of detail, both at the front and the rear, to really kind of to lessen any impact that might come from that additional density that's being proposed. So I think it's completely worth supporting and move a motion to approve with no conditions.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Granenstein. And so we have a motion to approve with no conditions. All in favor? Application is approved. The committee goes on to item 33.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, certainly.
We're just coming up on the end of our YouTube feed, so if we can take a minute just so we can switch that over.
Sure, certainly.
So for those who are watching on YouTube right now, we have to switch over to another YouTube feed. So this stream will end, and you can find the Toronto and East York January 26, 2022 PM Part 3 hearing. So again, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, this stream is going to end. You can find the PM Part 3 on our YouTube channel. Just 1 minute.